I know that we can.
I know darn well we can work it out. Oh, yes, we can. I know we can. Yes, we can. Oh, why can't we if we want to? Yes, we can.
I know we can make it work. I know we can make it if we try.
Oh, yes, we can. I know we can.
Great gosh, your body.
Welcome to Yes We Can podcast with Pastor Sherman D.Manning. Listen, we're starting off our new season today, and we're doing it differently. I brought you some of the top lawyers in the United States of America. In fact, when we brought Tom Mesereau, that's one of the top lawyers in the world, and all kinds of people who have talked about homelessness and what's going on in this country. Today, I have a special guest. This is probably one of the only non-lawyers I've had on the podcast. This is a great young lady by the name of Basma, whom you will be reading about in the very, very near future. She's about to graduate from UCLA in just a couple of weeks, and I want to bring her on because I'm so excited about her future, about the career that she's going to have, and all the great things she's going to do around the world. Please tell your friends to tune in to Yes We Can podcast with Pastor Sherman D. Manning. Check us out on Spotify, iHeart, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you would like to be a part of sponsoring this podcast, go to yeswecanworshipcenter.org. That's yeswecanworshipcenter.org. Any donation that you send will help us keep the podcast going, feed the hungry, house the homeless. No donation is too large or small, and I need you to hear that because a lot of you say, I only have $10 or $15 and you don't send anything. We need your donation today. If you'd like to send it snail mail, it goes to 10306 Avalon, Los Angeles, California, 90003. Let's get ready for a great podcast with Basma. Take a look at this. Thank you for joining me, ladies and gentlemen. My special guest today is Basma. And rather than butcher her last name, I'm going to have her pronounce your last name for my audience.
Oh, my name is Basma Abdelmajid.
Okay, very good. And I know that normally I have on attorneys and high-powered super lawyers and things of that nature, but I decided today to take a break and bring you a breath of fresh air. Just an amazing young lady who is going to do great things in the world. And I strongly believe and even prophesy that one day you'll be reading about Basma. And just as you're watching her on this podcast, you'll be watching her on news programs around the world, and you will see that she's going to do some great things in this world. Basma, do me a favor and tell me who you are.
Well, my name is Basma Abdelmajid. I'm currently a senior at UCLA, and I really just want to do something to impact the world. I want to change and help as much as I can with any privilege that I have to just give back to communities who are often overlooked.
Very good, very good. And is this your first podcast?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you're doing great. So you want to look at the camera some?
Yes,
you
sir.
want to look at me some also?
Yes,
okay. And so how long have you been in UCLA? You say you're a senior. So
Yeah.
Take us back. You were born in, I think, Stockton, California?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And tell me something about Stockton.
Well, I grew up in Stockton. There's certain areas of Stockton that are much like Los Angeles that are very, very different. Like the communities are very, very different. And so
Now, you know I've been to Stockton many times.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
You have told me.
And one of my friends, I never mentioned him to you, he used to have the largest bail bonds company in Stockton. His name is Ralph White.
Ralph White.
You have to Google him. He was a
Yes,
city
sir.
councilman there. He's run for mayor 3 or 4 times there. And he has a mansion in the hood, and that's literal. So he made a lot of money, but he didn't want to move to the rich part of Stockton. So he built a mansion, and he has a skating rink in his house there.
Wow.
It's on 2901 B Street in Stockton,
sir.
California.
Oh, I know where that is.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay, all right.
is.
That's Ralph White. And so Stockton has a lot of poverty also.
Yes,
I've noticed.
quite a lot. Especially it was very interesting to me growing up. You can like pass a bridge and you are now in the richest part of town, but on the other side you see people who are very impoverished and are affected a lot by gang violence and stuff like that. I was fortunate. I come from a middle class family, so I was fortunate enough to to grow up in a nicer area of town, but a lot of my friends growing up from middle school and high school and even elementary school did not have that privilege. So although I didn't see it myself, I grew up around the sort of environment where people were affected by quite a lot, like numerous things, including poverty. And it again makes me think back to my privilege and how lucky I am to be able to be here today and not have to go through that in my life, which is again why I think that I owe it to myself and to others to give back, because
Yes. And you told me something about you resided in Modesto for a
I
while.
did.
Tell me about that.
Well, I was born in Modesto. I don't really have too much memory of it.
Okay.
Yeah, but I was born there, and then I lived in Egypt for 2 years, and then moved back to California.
Okay, now stay with Egypt for a moment, because
Yes, sir.
everybody watching wants to know, what is your nationality. I can assure you of that. Not that it matters, but they are curious. So tell us, what is your nationality?
I am Egyptian.
Egyptian.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So tell me something about your mom and dad.
My mom, they both grew up in Egypt. My dad grew up in Cairo, and my mom grew up in a smaller village, El Zarqa, if anyone would know where that is. My mom went to school to be a geology teacher, and my dad is an engineer, a civil engineer. And yeah, they met because my dad's old friend was like, there's a woman that I heard about, and you should go visit her.
Aha.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Lucky for your dad, huh?
lucky for my dad, yeah. And at first, my mom didn't want to marry him at first.
Okay.
Because she didn't like that he ate with his hands. But here they are.
All right.
Yeah, very, very happy. So, yeah.
And happiness is key. Do you have siblings?
I do. I am the oldest of 3. So I have a younger sister who is now in her sophomore year, and a younger brother who is in his sophomore year of high school.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. So all of you all are educated people.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And so you are majoring in sociology. So tell us, what made you decide to major in sociology?
Yeah. So when I first applied to college, I had applied as a psychology major, and I was very interested in the way people think, and a lot of people just behave without believing that there's a meaning behind their behavior, and I think there's a purpose for everything that we do, every action, whether it's conscious or subconscious, and that made me want to go into psychology. And then in my classes, we were learning a lot about the brain and the prefrontal cortex, and that wasn't necessarily what I was passionate about. So I switched over to sociology, and I absolutely love it. It's everything I wanted in psychology, but more theory. So like, we do this because of that. We act in a certain way around people because of, like, we don't want people to judge us. It's a lot of that, and I'm very, very, very passionate about sociology and what I'm doing now, and I'm very grateful that I made that change to sociology and to get this degree.
And what do you think makes you so interested in why people do what they do? Why do you care?
Oh, well, why? I think it's always been a thought in my head growing up of, like, why did this person give me this candy? Or why are these people acting mean? And I grew up watching a lot of, like, documentaries that would explain the thought processes, and I wanted to be a forensic psychologist at first, but I don't think I have the heart for that line of work to, like, sit across from, like, a serial murderer and be like, how, like, why are you doing what you do?
Right. Okay.
Yeah, but I think it's very good that people are in that line of work. Why I think it's interesting, why is it important? I think it has to be important. We can continue living on not understanding why we do what we do, but then I feel like that just creates a bubble around every single person, a sense of like ignorance to even ourselves of, because every action can be explained.
Right.
Always, even if it's something that you do, it could be something from the past, from your childhood, from your teenage years. There's always an explanation, and so I think it's very important that we begin to understand the importance of not only human behavior but also why it is done. Even something as primitive as like wanting attention seeking or wanting people to like you, or even being a part of a community, what it means to be a part of a community. I think it's very, very, very important and necessary things that needs more research in, because we shouldn't continue living in just a bubble. Like we should understand our actions and our reactions. Yeah.
In order to be better. I hear you talk a lot about research. Well, you have a passion for researching things.
Yes, I was it last year? Last year I was still a psychology student, and I had one of my TAs, one of the teaching assistants, had been doing research in social perception of people's perception of others, and I found it very interesting. And before that, I had never thought about research or even thought that I would ever want to do it or this would be my line of work. And then I asked to join the lab, and I absolutely fell in love with it.
Wow.
I think it's such a incredible thing that I and others often forget, that we have information is so accessible. Like understanding people and understanding why we do things is so accessible. And I remember the first project that we were working on was like perception of out-group people. So we wanted to see if people were consciously choosing to ignore other races, or if it was something that was unconscious. Like people can sit there and say that it's ignorance, that they didn't know, that they didn't see, that they weren't paying attention, when in reality they were. Yeah.
So was it conscious or unconscious?
It was, well, that we were not able to get that yet, because then that would have to mean like tracking of the brain and seeing what parts of the brain go off. And also you can't necessarily ask a participant, was that conscious or unconscious? Because there's biases, and of course people won't want to say if they consciously ignored something. But I guess that's something that we can further develop on, and I hope in the future more literature is done on it, because it would be interesting to see if it's gotten to a point where it's just subconscious to ignore others that don't look like you or don't act like you or just are different from you. I think that would be a very good piece of literature and research to conduct.
And you're also very interested in stigma, am I correct?
Sir. Yes, sir.
And we'll be right back after this, and you can tell me more about stigma. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back after this. I hope you're enjoying this podcast with Basma. This is a spectacular, just fabulous young lady who has really inspired me and impressed me with her life story and all of the things that she wants to do. She really has a great heart. She's concerned about people. And I think if we had 5 or 10 more Basmas in my church, we'd have the best church on planet Earth. Basma is a great, great young lady. Everybody watching today, we need your help to keep the podcast going. First, tell your friends about this podcast, Yes We Can Podcast with Pastor Sherman D.Manning. Secondly, send your donation to help us house the homeless, feed the hungry, make a difference in Los Angeles and around the world. Go to yeswecanworshipcenter.org. Now, let's get back to Basma. Thank you for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. We are here with Basma, and we're going to continue this interview with Basma. We were talking about stigma.
Yes,
Tell us
sir.
what interests you about that and what you mean when you say stigma as it
So
pertains to.
I think every single person has prejudice within them.
Okay.
We can, there can be conscious efforts to do it, especially when it comes to people who have not experienced or have not seen other ways of life or other communities, or just have, once again, been in a bubble. Like if you grow up around certain people, you don't know what the outside is like. And so I very much enjoy a lot of research that has to do with stigma, because it is fear of the unknown, whether it is people, whether it is areas, whether anything, fear of any unknown will cause people to treat things differently. And I think when you look when you look at the racial inequalities, or even the gender inequalities, any inequality, it will come from stigma towards a certain group. Even religion, for example, there's a lot of stigma that revolves around religious beliefs and like religious people. And I think it's very important to uncover where the stigma comes from, what plants the seed in people's head. And I'm very fascinated with the news, for example, because I think it plays a very big part in the way people perceive events and things and people, and the types of messages that they are bringing to the masses. I think is very. It's easy to forget how critical of a role they have in people's perception. Yeah.
Right.
Because sometimes you don't know what's going on down the street. Sometimes you don't know what's going on across the country, or have not met a person of a certain race or community, and all you have is the word of the media,
Right.
or the word of others. And I really want to find a way in which we can make people like break their stigmas and rewrite it and change the narrative of this fear of others and fear of the unknown, because I think that's the only way that we can actually live with some sort of equality. I think with greed, it's pretty much impossible for equality to actually, for true equality to be a thing. But any sort of rewriting of prejudice and reworking people's thoughts on others, I think is very, 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 very critical, especially when you look at just the way people, even in the U.S., in different parts of the U.S., look at other communities and other people and other races and other religion. It's one of my strongest passions. Yeah.
So do you think it is even possible to rewrite the narrative for someone, say, who's 30 or 40 years old and has this severe hatred for others? I mean, in some of the mass killings we've seen recently, where people who hated blacks or Jews or others and decided to go get an AK-57 or 47 or 15 or whatever it is, an assault weapon, and go kill people. Do you think we can do anything to help those people not hate Jews or blacks or Hispanics or minorities? Do you think we can actually help change those people?
I think at the end of the day, it is the individual's own desire that pushes them to change. But I have read countless research that has shown that, for example, going back to media, I had read this paper that was talking about Mohamed Salah is a soccer player that is currently in Liverpool. He was from Egypt and he is a Muslim. And the people, the news media in the UK, especially following like 9/11, had every time that they would talk about Muslim, it would be related to terrorism. And so there was a lot of hate crimes in the area. And they actually found that after Muhammad Salah joined the team, that hate crime had lowered, had been at an all-time low. And just having accurate representation will change the masses' ideologies. It's not going to change anyone. It's not going to change everyone. But I think more importantly, the people that are on the fence that could become those types of people, I think are the people that we should focus our attention to, because there are some people that you can't stop them. Their ideologies are so deep rooted in who they are, and it can come from like what they heard growing up, or what they saw growing up, or anything of that sort. And so even the ability to be able to change a few people's thoughts, I think, in my opinion, is a success.
Oh, yes. Can make a massive, major difference, because you never know what those few that we can help change would have become had we not helped. But I think I want to drill down on a key phrase you said: people who are on the fence.
Yes.
And I think that there's a lot of people who are on the fence. And you said a lot there, so it's a lot to unpack. When you were talking about the media, I strongly believe that Basma, a majority of the problems that we face in this country have a lot to do with the media.
I fully agree.
People who sit, I was watching one of the mass killers the other day, and I think it was his son or one of the relatives said that this person sat and watched a certain media all day long, and this media hated black people, hated Jewish people, hated Muslims. And we can't blame what he did on the media, but it certainly contributed to his thought process and what he did. So what we watch, what comes into our minds on a daily basis, coming out of that one-eyed devil, as my dad used to call it, the television, is very, very important. So I think that, we really need to work on changing media and changing media platforms and what people see. I mean, Tucker Carlson just got kicked off of television about a week ago, which I think is a great thing. But he's going to be back in another form. But people who watch him all day long and read about they're going to be replaced by Jews and replaced by other people, it desensitizes you and can really contribute to, I think, you becoming an animal. I mean, just hating people who, as you said, that you don't know, and this the fear of the unknown can just drive people to do some crazy things in this world.
I fully agree. And I like what you were talking about, the desensitization, because not even like news media, but just media in general, film and TV shows, the characters that you see portrayed that are oftentimes a huge stereotype of a group, the super smart Asian, the Hispanic that could like be part of like a gang or a drug dealer. It's just it
and the black guy with all the kids,
exactly,
but can't
exactly.
think. And I'm glad you said that. Not just news media, but film, the way we represent people, the way we represent groups of people. I think that's very, very important, which is why I'm careful what I allow to go into my brain.
Yeah, I agree.
Because if you let the media define you, you'll be thinking that black people can't do anything, or Egyptians or Muslims or women or whatever it might be. So I think you're really on to something. And the problems that we face in this country and in the world, for that matter, are huge and complex. And one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on the podcast was because you are a breath of fresh air. And it tells me that I hope that there are thousands of others at UCLA and other colleges around the country who are as animated and excited as you are about doing something to change the country and to make us, Rodney King said it best years ago. He said, can't we all just get along? I mean, and it sounds so cliche.
It sounds so simple too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm very, very thankful and very fortunate to be here, and I think I have had the opportunity to work with such great people at UCLA, people who are passionate to make a change and see that there are changes to be made. And going back to the media thing, it's very easy to just point the finger at just media, but you have to understand that the media is run by individuals.
Absolutely.
So it's less about the media, which I think plays a big part, but more so about the individuals who have power and the individuals who are greenlighting certain things in shows, and even the thoughts of certain individuals that are being portrayed to the masses, because there are films and there are TV shows and there is news media that do a great job of actually like showing real people or saying real stories in the way it actually happened. But when it comes to the masses, sadly, you're selling a story, not the truth. When it comes to individuals who work in media, not all, but there's a thought of like, we know this works. We know the stereotype of a person will make people click.
Selling a story, not the truth. I like that. When the Fox News Corporation just had to settle a lawsuit,
Yeah.
I think it was for $987 million.
Wow.
And some of the text messages they found from some of the perpetrators of hate, I will call them,
Yeah.
Tucker Carlson and others, and it's not just about him, many, many others, they were basically saying, we know that what we're putting on the air is a lie.
Yeah.
We know it's not true, but we have to play to our audience. Tucker said it this way. He said, this is our entire business model. We have to placate the fears of these people. We have to play into this. And so I think you hit it when you said you're selling a story, not the truth. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back after this. Okay, I hope you're enjoying this podcast with Basma. Ladies and gentlemen, please remember that you can make a difference today. You can help us keep the podcast going. You can help us feed the hungry and house the homeless. Go to yeswecanworshipcenter.org. Send your donation today. yeswecanworshipcenter.org. Now, let's get back to Basma. Thank you for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here with Basma, and we are having a great interview. I can't believe it's her first time on a podcast. I must tip my hat to her. I think she's done a great job. I'll be waiting for some feedback from some of you to let me know what you thought of Basma. You were talking about selling a story, not the truth. And I think we really need to talk about that for a moment. What do you think makes people want to sell stories instead of telling the truth?
I think it can be multiple things. It can be internal biases. You want to portray, of course you want to portray the ideologies, the beliefs that you yourself have.
Right.
Why would you want to write an article talking about how Muslims or Christians or the Black community is doing this great thing or were actually the victims in a situation when you yourself don't believe that?
Right.
It could also be that, like you were saying earlier, that you know your audience. You know the stuff that your audience will read and will click and will watch. I think that's a huge part of it, especially when you consider...
And if I may, a part of that, I think, is what you were talking about earlier, which is greed.
Yeah.
Because in order to get those clicks,
exactly.
in order to get this, we have algorithms that specialize in clicking on hate, and hate sells, and it makes a lot of money. I would be remiss to not tell the audience how you came into contact with me.
Yeah.
So please tell Yes We Can podcast watchers how we met.
Yeah. So I'm currently in a prison religion class, and it talks a lot about the stigma of prisoners, especially when they're free, on them joining religion while they're in prison. And I have a project for the class in which I had to go to a congregation and talk to a pastor or a goer of some sort. And I really wanted this to be something where I can learn, because I could have easily gone to a mosque or any church, but I wanted to make sure that I was going to a place that actually understood stigma and would actually work with people who had a stigma, especially when it comes to religion. I think there's sometimes certain ways that people think you're supposed to come to faith, or the way your faith is supposed to look.
Right.
And yeah, so I was on Google looking up anything. You can't just look up on Google what's the word? A church that has stigma. Like that doesn't show up.
Right.
Like nothing will show up. And a lot of the ones were showing up in other areas of the US, and I was like, oh, I can't go there.
Okay.
And then I stumbled upon Yes We Can and read through the entire homepage, and I was like, this is perfect. Like I'm gonna learn something. I'm going to be talking to not only a pastor, but people who actually have been affected by stigma. And yeah, so I called, and I'm very grateful that you picked up.
Okay.
And
I told I rarely ever answer my phone, but
Yeah.
I answered, and I think it was actually on a Saturday morning. Was it?
It
A Friday
was.
morning.
It was Friday
which
morning.
is church day, so I definitely don't answer. So it must have been meant to be. So you came to one service?
I did.
And how was it?
It was incredible. It was my first time I went to a church my freshman year of college, and it was very different. You can see that the way that you guys praise is very different. I was shocked when you were telling everyone to get up and stand in the middle of the aisle and dance. I was like,
Okay.
wow, we did not do that in
Okay.
mosques.
And then you came back a second time.
And then
right?
I came back.
And when she came back a second time, ladies and gentlemen, when I told people to get in the aisle, Basma went to the aisle and was giving praise and dancing and knows how to hit a few moves. And so we were really appreciative of her coming to the service, and probably going to be doing some things with her so far as an internship is concerned. But I just thought it was wonderful to have you attend our services. Say something about the Yes We Can band. Talk about my musicians for a moment.
Absolutely incredible. I am a music lover. I love to go to concerts, like smaller bands. A couple of my friends are in bands, and I was mind blown. Every single one of them is so incredible on their instruments, and
Brenton, that's it.
has such a beautiful voice, and I forgot her name, but she was there last time I was.
The female that was singing?
The female that was singing.
Twanisha. That's Pastor Stan's daughter.
Yes. She would. Their voices are so incredible. Wow. And I was sitting there being like, they're so good.
Yes.
They're so incredible. Like how are they not more well known?
So shout out to the Yes We Can band, Minister of Music Brenton Hall, lead guitar player Buddy Black, bass guitar player Keith Liggins,
yes, sir.
And my drummer is Jason Moore, my chief armor bearer Anthony Valenzuela, and what about our cook?
Oh
Darlene.
My God. She is not only the sweetest person I have met. The first time that I showed up, I walked in and I was so nervous. And she walked up to me and just hugged me.
Wow.
And I had a notebook, and I was like planning on writing notes. And the first thing that I wrote in that notebook was, I just got a hug.
Wow.
I feel so warm.
Wow.
Like it felt so welcoming. Her food is absolutely delicious. And I think every single person that's there, you can tell that they're passionate about making a difference and helping and giving back to the community. And it really, really, really is incredible stuff. Like, you have been praising me, but the work that you're doing is absolutely incredible. And I think it's very refreshing and very surprising, which it shouldn't be surprising that someone is doing something to help, but it's so incredible to witness the amount that you're doing to give back to the community and to help a community of people, for example, the homeless, who are often overlooked and ignored and pushed out of their houses. Like I heard that the LA's solution to homelessness was to pick up their tents and throw it away. It's
Ooh, we don't want to go there. That's a whole other show. So, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for the compliments. I just want to shameless plug. Every Friday night after the church service, we give a free hot catered meal to everyone who attends the service.
Yeah.
Initially, I started doing that just for the homeless, but we do it for the entire congregation. We don't charge a dime for this, and this is M&M type food here. This is not peanut butter and jelly, even though I have nothing against that. And so shout out to Sister Darlene. I think it's Soul Food Sisters, Sister Soul Food Catering is the name of her company. And Yes We Can Worship Center. We're online. You can check us out. The podcast is not about the church itself, but I am the pastor, and I'm proud of it. And I thank God that we are able to be used by Him to do the little work that we do, trying to get people off the streets, trying to feed people and make a difference in the community. And I'm just so glad that this young lady came to 2 of our services. She'll be back again, and I wanted to introduce her, let her have her debut so that the nation could know who Basma is, and that look out because she's coming. Last question I want to ask you before we get off, and that is, if you were to die tomorrow, how would you want us to remember you?
That's a good question. I want to be remembered as a good person, a giving person, someone who helped others. I want, when I pass, for people to be like, I am so glad that I stumbled across her, or that I met her. My goal in life is to make people feel good. And I hope that when the time eventually comes, everyone that I know is happy that they have met me and that I was in their life. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I can't speak for everyone, but I can speak for me. And I am very, very happy to know you. And every time I see you, I feel better. And you make me want to be a better preacher, a better pastor, a better man, and a better podcast host. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Basma, say goodbye to everybody and let them know you will see them again soon.
Thank you so much. I will see you guys again. I'm so happy to be here.
And please remember that we can make this world a better place. We can do it together. Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
All right.
Gosh, your body. We can make it, y'all.